Hey everyone, happy Friday to you all. I have a special guest, Miss Tracy Birmingham, and she is going to tell us all about systems and why it is important. But first, before we get to that, Tracy, can you tell the people who you are?
Yes, I am a business systems and operations nerd. I think that it is so fun to create systems and efficiency and time freedom and financial freedom and all of those things. And how I came about to doing that was I've been a project manager for about 25 years. I've worked with some of the big names: Gap, Banana Republic, Del Monte Foods, Williams Sonoma, Visa, Charles Schwab, and I probably launched about $1 billion worth of new products and services into the world over that time frame.
Wow.
I've learned a thing or two along the way. And so now what I do is I actually share that and help small businesses to actually incorporate those systems and structures that actually create the efficiencies that don't bog down the business, but actually create kind of, I call it alignment or that flow state, right? Where everything just kind of
Mm,
works really, really well and really seamlessly together in order to make that happen.
absolutely. So we know you have been in the game. You work with all types of sizes of businesses, people, etc. So the first question would be, when someone thinks of a system, they might automatically go through tech, but you're not just focused on tech systems, right? You're focused on processes and everything else. So, what would you say is like one of the first things that people should look at when they're implementing a system to be more successful on the personal side of things?
Well, so, I think I love tech, and I think it is so cool that we have all of these options available to us to create automations, to create the systems, to create the structures. And if you don't have the clarity of, and in a nutshell, it's where you're going
Hmm.
and what needs to happen in that process, the tech is useless. And so you need that clarity, and you need, I see so many business owners who, like, they'll follow the gurus, or they'll follow a plan, or they'll follow something, and then they'll get there and they hate where they ended up.
I've been
Right?
there.
Like they're so miserable in their business. And
Yeah,
so it's like it's literally in figuring out where to start. It's like figure out what is the end. Like what is the end goal? What do you actually want that to look like? And and a lot of people get bogged down, I think, when they think systems, and they think that, okay, so now if I put systems in place, all spontaneity, all creativity, all everything goes out the window, right? Because now I'm stuck within this system. But if you have clarity and you know the end in mind of what you've chosen, then you can customize that system to give you all of the freedom, all of the clarity, the the consistency in the mundane stuff will allow you to level up and actually get that creativity that you want, and that freedom that you're craving.
absolutely. Like I said, I've been there. What you were talking about, where we listen to a guru, we're building the business, we implement all this amazing text, and then when we're running it, we're like, this actually is not what I wanted, and I'm wasting a lot of money and a lot of time doing all this stuff. So I know
Yep.
exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
I think we all
Um,
do, right? We've all
yeah,
gone there. We've all gone down that path and wait, what? Like how did
right, right. This is what I was supposed to have.
Right,
And
right.
recently I literally just scaled back to be more effective with my system, because oftentimes, and that's another thing that people run into when they're first trying to implement the system, they don't give it time, right, to refine the process and tweak it to make it work for them. So we also have to make sure that as we think about this conversation today, and when I say we, I'm talking about the people that need your help and services. Uh, we need to think about the fact that things are not always one size fits all. So we need to be conscious of that and really give it time to try and refine that to fit our lifestyles, our businesses, etc. So I love what you said about making sure that you have clarity, because that's
Mhm.
how we get into that issue in the first place, where we're implementing things just because we were told to do it or we think that's the way. So how do we get that clarity? How do we say this is the why, this is the what, and then go ahead and implement that plan and that strategy?
So for me, so I think simplicity is the key to everything that you're saying. And I think, you know, for me, in all honesty, it's so I'm going through this right now with my business, in that I want to make changes in how I'm currently doing things. Um, and what I'm finding is that kind of the common practice of how to run a business is not where I want to end up. Right. And so it's really interesting. So, what I'm having to do
Mm,
is, so I know for a fact that as soon as I choose where I want to go, I will 100% succeed. Right. Like that has been my history in the past.
I
That
love
is
that.
that is how it will always be. Right. That being said, I'm, I don't know if hesitant is the right word. I'm still creating the clarity around where I want to go, right? And what I want to do, because I don't want to get there and be miserable. I
Right.
don't want to get there and be struggling. And a lot of the gurus that we're following and a lot of the ways of doing business, it's not how I want to live my life. So then it's starting to think about, okay, so if this is what I want out of my life, I love doing business. And I have four little boys who are growing up faster than fast, and I want to be around, right? Like I want this and lifestyle. Like I want to I want to have the time to travel. I want to have the money to travel. I want to have the time to be with my kids. I want to have the time to actually have the challenge of work at the same time. I'm a total book nerd. I love to read. I want the time to read, right? Like I want, and for
Yes.
me it's time, right? And the money to be comfortable with that time, right? And so I need to look at, what does that look like if I were to achieve that lifestyle for myself, and it's custom for every single one of us, right? And it
Absolutely.
changes, right? Like my kids are getting older, so it's a heck of a lot easier than when they were babies, right? Like trying to, they can go take a shower by themselves. I don't need to sit next to the bathtub, like
Right.
all of these things. I have extra time now, right? And so getting clarity for me on what does that look like, and then how could I build a business that matches that outcome, right? That end goal. And so it's really that clarity, and maybe thinking differently and doing things differently and putting different things into place in order to, different systems, different processes, different people, different team members, right? Like all of those things. But what I will do with that, I've got, and so what I figured out with mine is that I've got three core business opportunities that I would like to work on. That's it, no more. And they have a lot of passivity built in them, and they excite me to be
Absolutely.
able to do them. And so I will take one of those only, and I will work on that 100% until it is solid and in place and doing what I need it to do. Then I will move on to the next one. So I'm not trying to build everything all at once. I'm not trying to do everything all at once. I'm simply tweaking, figuring out, like that worked, that didn't work, scrap that, add this in, let's try this, let's optimize that, let's pull that lever, right? To make sure that everything is in there, both the passivity as well as the income that I'm looking to generate from these workflows that I'm
Yeah.
building.
That reminds me of a principle, Japanese principle called finding your ikigai, right? Where it's like your reason for being, and it encompasses all of that stuff. How can I, they say now more recently that it's not about money getting paid necessarily, because being paid could be with time, right? So how can I get paid? How can I make an impact in the way I want to make that impact? How can I find the purpose and passion? And then, pretty much, do I love it, right? Is it something I want to do long term? And also that changes, like you said. So we really have to give ourselves grace during this process of identifying this clarity, because it could be in the middle of just about to get that thing done, and then you may realize, you know what, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that anymore. So
I
we
know.
really have to ensure that we take that into account as we're putting these systems in place. That it's not just a one. I like to do systems that don't just fit that one purpose, but it's a multi-purpose thing where I can say, you
Mhm.
know what? For instance, if I want more time, one of my systems is to make sure I write down exactly what I need to get done that next day. Put that sticky note where I know that I'm going to be, whether it's by the bedside or on my computer, and then work. I may not necessarily be hitting the same goal when I wake up. I may realize priority one is now priority five, or that I don't need to do it at all. But I know that that's going to get me to in the right flow state, as you mentioned, to do
Mhm.
whatever I need to get done immediately in that moment. So yeah, that's a part of that's a glimpse into how I think about it as well. And I love
Yeah.
that three step process that you mentioned in identifying it. It reminds me of Warren Buffett. He said that a lot of us we're not achieving our goals because we have too many. Right. So we write
Yeah.
down 50 things on a task list, and then we get overwhelmed and inundated with the process of thinking about how we're going to get the things done. So if you only
I
have those
see
three
that.
things, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I see that so much when I start working with new businesses, new entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
They literally have everything in their head of all of the things that they need to get done. The weight of the world is on their shoulders. And it's like this, and I do this exercise where I call it the brain dump bliss exercise, where
Hmm.
it's literally that of get write it all down, get it out of your head, just exactly what you were talking about, right? And yours is prioritized, but by getting out your to-do list, get it out there, write it all out. Anybody can do this exercise.
Yes.
To-do list, do all the issues list. What are all the issues that you're having, all the problems that you're having, things that are in the back of your mind swirling, right? That you just need to get done. You just haven't had time to get them done. All of your wishes. Where do you, every entrepreneur I've ever met has ideas, right?
Yes.
But a lot of times they don't have the idea or the time to implement the ideas, right? What are those ideas? Write them out. And then like you said with your sticky note or whatever, prioritize those. I use a tool called monday.com. I
I love
absolutely love
Monday.
it.
Yeah.
I use it with all of my things, but like I will like you have your sticky note, but I will write down everything that's on my brain. I will get it all out and then I'll just move them, the tasks or the notes into prioritization of okay, so out of everything that's in my head, these are the things that are the most important that I need to do immediately and I just go down the list. And
Yes.
it just clears everything out and it's like breath of fresh air and right like you can breathe again and you can actually start to get things done and start to knock them off and start to like kind of create some space for yourself.
That that last part is crucial. Creating
Mhm.
space for yourself because even with systems, we sometimes get this feeling where we're overwhelmed or we're overworked or there's not enough time in a day, especially as entrepreneurs or business leaders and owners. So as professionals, just in general. So we really have to make sure that and as a part of our system, I recommend that everyone provides that space for themselves. Like me, I decided I'm going to come outside today. I had a busy morning, so I was like, why not just walk around and talk and get some fresh air while I'm talking to
Yeah.
Tracy? Because that's a part of my system. When I start to feel like, that pressure, that weight, and I pay attention to the physical responses as well. So if I start to feel that tension in my neck or something, then I know that it might be time for me to get up and just move around a little bit.
Yes.
And that's part of the system of me taking care of myself. So yes, that
Yes.
space part that really spoke to me, Tracy.
Yeah, and I'm at one of the changes that I'm making, right, is that I'm literally at my desk. Like everything I do is virtual, right? And so one of the things that I'm going to implement is I'm going to take a morning walk and I'm going to have walk and talk meetings. And if you would
Yes,
like to schedule a meeting with me, we'll chat while we're walking and right? Like so we're able to kind of get that at the same time so I can get away from the desk. We can still talk about what we need to talk about. And so that's something that I'm going right that's one of my options or one of my things that I'm going to build into my new system.
absolutely. And when we're talking about systems, I just want to make sure everyone understands that, like Tracy said earlier, there's not a one size fits all approach, but there are some keys to making sure that you have proper systems in place. Can you talk a little bit more about what keys that we should be looking at when we're setting up our systems, Tracy?
Yeah, think about systems. I get so often that people think that they're going to get trapped in these systems, and that is absolutely not the case. It's kind of so think of systems like it's kind of like building a house. You build a house the same way every time, right? You build a solid foundation. From the foundation, you start to build up, right? The outcome of that house, it could be a tiny home that's 400 square feet, or it could be a mansion that's, 20,000 square feet, right? Like, and the difference of what you can build inside of both of those are infinite possibilities, right? And so think about when you're building your systems, you create that framework, but I like to call it living systems. So you've got the framework where you need a solid foundation. And think of it like building blocks of like building that house or bricks, right? Every You can create micro systems, right? So you've got a customer support system. You pop that into your foundational brick, right? And you pop that, and then you layer that with a follow-up system for your email campaigns, and then you create a right. So all of these, you can create micro systems, but you need the clarity to be able to do that, right?
Right.
And so you need to have the plans in place of, I want to build a tiny home or I want to build a mansion. But it's literally like you break it down into bite-sized chunks, right? And you can always remove, right? Like you can redecorate the house. So you can always like pull, like, this isn't working for me anymore,
Yeah.
right? I'm pulling this out, I'm putting something new in, and you're able to do that, but you still have that solid framework that you've built, that solid foundation around it.
No, I love that you did that analogy of the house and then redecorating and everything, because it paints that visual of what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the micro systems feeding into the greater goals, right? The
Yep.
systems really should, I like to call it feng shui your success, right?
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
setting
Yes.
myself up for success with these systems. So it has to have a greater goal. And you need to ask yourself why. And like I said earlier, why and what. So why do I need this system, and what is the purpose that it is going to help me accomplish, or what is the goal is it going to help me accomplish? So when I'm looking at this house and I'm thinking about the foundation, really that is the key. The key is because like a house, if you build it on a shaky one, it's going to fall. So we need to make sure that with the systems, that part of that foundation is ensuring that the goal of this is functioning properly, and the steps we want to make sure that it's as efficient as it can be, and we're going to figure that out as we go. So this word efficiency makes me think of an issue I had recently where I thought that I was being efficient, Tracy, with a system I had implemented, mainly email, but I found that it wasn't working in the way that I needed it to. Have you ever encountered that? And then what happened was I pretty much had to revamp the whole dang on thing because I had someone set it up for me. So what do you do when that happens? How do you combat that frustration when you're like, oh, it's gonna be great. I set this up. I had someone who's an expert at this guide me through it, and then it just didn't work. It failed. How do you overcome those thoughts that's in your mind about this? Why even try again? It's pretty much what I'm asking.
Well, that's how it works, right? Like you don't know what you don't know until you start. And you had an expert come in, which is excellent. And like, I'm a book reader, right? Like, I love the fact that somebody took 20 years to figure something out, put it in a book, and I can learn it in a few hours,
Right.
right? So like things like that, I think, are so beneficial. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that system exactly is going to work for you, right? So like your email system, there might be some pieces of it that that so now that you know what you know, right? There are some pieces of it that you can keep, and some things that aren't working for you. And so let's keep what's working and figure out a different way, right? But that's always how it is. Like
Yes.
we are
Yes.
living in a world that is moving so fast now, that what we're doing in our businesses today, in 10 years from now, like I've got four children who, like, my oldest just started high school. And what is the work world going to be like for my 8-year-old when he goes into the workforce? Technology is moving so quickly,
Wow. Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
a
think about
that's
from 10 years, like 10 years ago,
yes.
it looks completely different. in 10 years, and we're moving faster, I think, now than we ever were before. We are constantly, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we are going to have to adapt 100%. And that's just the external world, right? Like, it is changing. We will have to adapt. Just expect it and just revise as we go. Also, we are all in different stages of our lives at any given point, right? And we're allowed to change our minds on how we do things and what works and what doesn't work anymore. And having the
Absolutely.
adaptability and the expectation of let's change, refine, adapt, we can, if we do that in a way that we're nipping it in the bud. Like, a lot of times I think we think, no, like, we don't like change, so we stick with what we've got until, like, it's so painful that we have to change,
No,
right?
that
And so
woo,
we make
that's
ourselves
speaking. Yeah,
miserable,
yeah.
right? So if we get out ahead of it and expect the change and just kind of realign ourselves whenever we get out of whack, and we just do that over and over and over again, it's baby steps that we're changing and adapting, not
Yeah. I,
massive overhauls that are needed.
I like to say success is iterative, right? Because we're going to refine the approach constantly, and the way we envision it in our minds and the way we planned it. It's typically, I haven't had it where it went the way I wanted it to go. I
Well,
don't
and
know about
again,
y'all out there.
yeah, right. But again, it's like you don't know what you don't know. So, like, half the time
Exactly.
you get halfway through this goal that you've set, and you realize, like, that's not going to work the way I
That's
thought
not
it
gonna
was.
work.
And you would now have all of this information, all of this knowledge to then pivot really quickly and really easily and go in. Now you know more, so go in that direction.
So yes, so I'm gonna go in that direction, and I now that I know, I'm gonna ask the expert how, like, what are the systems that are must haves for, let's just say, for professionals. We don't even need to say for just entrepreneurs, for professionals.
You need a, in all honesty, I would say the thing that we all need the most, and I blend personal with business all the time. I feel like I've got one life to live. Like, it's there. I don't think there is such thing as work life balance. Like, it's
Right.
all just kind of mixed
It's all
together,
what you
and
want to put your energy towards, right? Or need
yeah,
to
it
put
just,
your energy
and
towards.
I choose to ebb and flow it, right? Like,
Yes.
I want it all to be together. I think a personal, like, in all honesty, a personal task management tool, or board, or way to do that, to where, like, for me, there is so much happening in the world. And again, the world is going so fast these days that trying to keep everything in your head and keep everything organized, and all of I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm a team manager, I've got clients, I've got, right, like, and that and that's just like the first level, right?
Yes.
Then you go
Right.
into the periphery of everything. And so, getting it out of your head and having a system to get it out of your head and do the things that are priority for you, whether it's business, life, a mix of both, I think is just absolutely necessary for, not, and it's not even, to me, it's not even about getting things done. Yes, the stuff gets done, but it is the um, calm that you feel
Right.
in your
Yeah.
mind, the anxiety's gone, the stress. I think sometimes stress is a good thing, right? Like,
Yeah. There
sometimes it
there are good
it gets us
stressors for sure.
it gets us moving, right? But it's a
Yeah.
good stress. Like, okay, I've got this deadline that I did. I'm excited to launch this. Let's get it done, right? Versus, like, oh my gosh, I've got so much on my plate. There's not enough hours in the day. I'm stressing out. I'm failing with my kids. I'm failing with my family. I'm failing in my business, right? Like, all of those things that come up, that it allows you to, it's again, it's clarity, right? When
Right.
it's in our heads, it spins and it goes over and over and over again. When it's on a piece of paper, it doesn't need to go here because it's on here, and you can just go check and see. You don't forget
Right.
anything. You don't miss anything.
And a part of that clarity is really being clear on yourself.
Mhm.
A lot of us, I feel like a lot of us don't spend enough time getting to know what works for us, who we are, and our tendencies, behavioral patterns, etc. So I know with a lot of my clients, everyone hears, for instance, journaling. Everyone thinks that you got to write for a journal. When I don't believe that, right? I can talk about it. I can do a video. I journal
Mhm.
every day, just by doing these videos and stuff. So I feel like you just have to find what works for you. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned the software. There's a million different types of software out there. We mentioned Monday, but you can use whatever works, whatever flows with you. So we just have to find out what jives with the person we want to be. Really, not necessarily who we are now, because we may want to be better in a little bit ways, and maybe we didn't have that system in place, but we're looking to build it. So think about where you want to be and who you want to be, and then implement those systems from that perspective. But it's going to take the hard work of getting to know you.
Agree 100%. And I want to add two things to that. I think
Absolutely.
consistency, do it consistently, right? Like
Yes.
whatever you choose, do it consistently over and over and over again. Make that a habit. It doesn't have to
Absolutely.
take 2 hours a day, right? It can be less than 15 minutes to get what you need, right? Get it out of your
Absolutely.
brain, learn about yourself, know about yourself, and you will get better at that. And then again, kind of on that second note is know yourself and get to know yourself absolutely like you said, Javon, and recognize that you can also change
You
your
will.
mind,
You will
right?
change. Yeah, you will.
Exactly, right? But like be open to that, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
have to consistently journal or whatever the journaling is for you, right? Whether it's a video, whether it's writing it down, whether it's a list, whether whatever that may be, talking it out. But like I find sometimes that like depending on the situation and where I'm at, sometimes I need to talk it out, sometimes I need to write it out, sometimes I just need to go for a walk and like
Yeah.
work it out, right? Like there's all, but it depends on the situation. But I know myself well enough to kind of ask, like, what do I need right now when
Right.
that pops up? And then I go do whatever that is that I need in that moment. And so knowing yourself enough to be able to do that consistently will change your life.
Yeah, and that's why the flexibility that you mentioned earlier is so important. Systems can have room for change, right? Like you said, so that
Infinite.
flexibility, you
Yes.
say, instead of doing this thing at this time, I'm going to do it this way. But that's the beauty of it all.
But it's all getting done still,
It's all
right?
getting
Like it
done
is.
still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all getting done. So, what would you say one more system is? I know we're coming up to time. So, what would be one more thing that comes to your mind when it comes to making sure you feng shui your success and go from chaos to clarity?
Whatever, start with the things that are the most painful, right? Clear those out. The things that are the hardest for you, that are the most painful for you, build a system around that. Start
Mm,
there. That will change. Like if you've got a whole, like let's say we got a whole pie, right? 100%. And the things that are the hardest for you, that are the most challenging for you, if you address those first, it's almost like a slingshot, right? Like these things have been holding you back. And the second you let those go, you just soar and you just fly. And so working on those as far as like feng shui, like get rid of, like maybe it's getting rid of the stuff that isn't working for you, right? Like
yes,
that are the
yes,
things that are hard. The In all honesty, like a lot of times it's the people, right? Like sometimes we need to step away from some people, and that's okay, right? Like
yes,
it is okay to heal yourself and to kind of you know feng shui your environment, right? Both internal and external. And so by kind of removing the things that are the biggest challenge, the most painful things, the things that you are constantly thinking about and worrying about all the time, take the time to clean it up.
yes, absolutely. That was beautifully said. Delegate what
Yeah.
you need done but doesn't need to get done. Delete what is no longer serving you at that moment. Delay what you want done, but maybe not right then and there, right? And automate the tasks that are mundane and that you have to do constantly, right?
Yes,
And
you
that's
got it.
it. So thank you so much, Tracy. It's been a fun conversation. I really appreciate you. How
Thank
can the
you.
people connect with you?
Yep, you can go to my website, goaldi.com, GOALDI.com. We have a business alignment assessment. There's also links. Just give me a call. I'm at tracy@goaldi.com as well. You can email me. But if you need some clarity, some prioritization help, I am happy to just talk it out with you. A lot of times we just need a sounding board,
Yeah,
right?
my
Like we
man
just need
Lloyd
somebody to say,
Lloyd
this
said
is
that.
right.
I
Like
don't know
just
if you can
get
see
it
the
out
comment.
there. Exactly. And I'm happy to be that person.
Yes, absolutely. Lloyd said, when I get overwhelmed, I speak to my wife. Sorted. I love it.
Right? Done, right?
I
She'll
love it.
sort
I
it.
do the same, so I
Yeah.
understand. But yeah, no, thank you so much. And anyone that wants to connect with me, hit that connect button. Don't hit follow. Hit connect with me on LinkedIn if you're on there, or you can just email me at jwooden@brightmindconsultinggroup.com or brightmindcg.com, and let's talk about it. I'll see you all soon. Thanks again, Tracy.